focus for a moment on that image. See on your screens, one that will be remembered for generations. Leaders of the greatest European nations with Zelensky sitting like contrite, obedient school children in front of Donald Trump, the imperial headmaster. What's the first emotion that comes to your mind? Sympathy, amusement, pity, schadenfreude, a call to wake up to the new world? Chances are it'll be a combination of all of the above except sympathy. And that isn't only because we see ourselves as Trump's favorite victims today. At some point going ahead, we would suggest, in fact, that we revise that impulsive reaction. We can see at least one leader's mind. He's not in the picture, but one leader's mind which has no emotional hurdle. Putin sees this picture with pure contempt as the richest, the most powerful nations in the world, the third and the sixth largest economies, the second largest economic bloc, which is EU, two nuclear weapon, P5 states, all down on their knees. They are reduced to being court jesters before the only leader who matters in the Western alliance today, which Putin has been trying to weaken. This has been argued persuasively by Owen Matthews in a long article for The Spectator. You will see a screenshot and I will share a link with you. This is headline, Putin's Trap, How Russia Plans to Split the Western Alliance. Putin also sees this as an acknowledgement that he has won the war. He thinks he has won the war. It is entirely up to him now to define this victory. It's the opposite for the Europeans, who now need to see what isn't a bad enough defeat. Because defeat, it is all right as of now. Putin now knows he can keep what he's captured, not just in the invasion he launched in 2022. Crimea and Donbass are his too. That's about 20% of the vast Ukrainian landmass. Further, NATO's eastward expansion is now history. Trump has said so often enough. While we know he changes his mind as often as a colorful dictator that we might have seen only in the movies, it is unlikely that he will suddenly start backing Ukraine and Europe's extreme demands, which include a defeated and ousted Putin. That will involve a full-fledged American involvement. Trump, in fact, has already put on the table what he will concede. Putin can take that and start negotiating for add-ons on top of that. The Russians have suffered severely and yet they are still attacking, however slow and expensive the progress. If peace comes at this point, Putin can declare victory. He can even make that victory speech from Crimea or Mariupol or any other place. With peace, sanctions will go. He can start rebuilding his resource-based economy. His leverage ultimately came from the fact that he's convinced Trump he can keep on fighting whatever the cost, whatever the losses. If Putin has been denied his maximalist ask of reducing Ukraine into a quasi-sovereign state with the regime of his choice, it is because the Ukrainians fought with incredible bravery and smarts. While the Western allies and the US may have helped them with resources, Ukrainians have earned their organic survival as a sovereign state by fighting for so long and exacting a price only a state as hard as Putin's Russia could endure. They've taught the world drone warfare, covert operations at a distance in scale even the great Mossad and the Israeli Defense Forces would envy. They've braved enormous casualties on a relatively small population base, just about 35 million, 3.5 crores, about a fifth of which is refugee in other countries. They have also inflicted much greater casualties on Russians, a phenomenal damage to their economy and military assets. Two things have denied them a better outcome. The first, just the inability of their European allies to accept any pain, military or economic. And the second, the return of Donald Trump. This die more or less cast now, we return to that historic picture in the Oval Office. It's back on your screens. Many books and doctorates will be written on how Europe reduced itself to one giant vassal. Let me explain the biggest reason Europe is reduced to being the first willing victim of Trump's new imperialism, how they are responding, and the lessons for India. Europe blundered in outsourcing its security to the Americans. To begin with, it was because of the self-imposed limitations of post-World War II pacifism. Then the lazy post-Soviet era As the Cold War ended, while NATO not only survived but expanded, there was always the belief that there was no real threat and the Americans would defend Europe come what may. Until one day they wouldn't. Now they want to be paid. Americans want to be paid even for military hardware. The fear of Russia has forced Europe to sign a patently one sided trade deal with Trump. Trump says he has the power to employ every dollar of the 600 billion Europe has pledged to invest in the US. A key aide, that is Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, says it's like having their own sovereign wealth fund. That's protection money and imperialism. Even if they spend more on defense now, Europeans, they will struggle to find recruits for the new military expansion. Military culture long ended in Europe, except in France and to some extent Britain. Poland retained it from the Warsaw Pact era and now has among the largest militaries in NATO. Others, minus say France, are at America's mercy. Turkey is not really European. Further, the economic dependence on cheap Chinese goods, Russian gas, and outsourced manufacturing are other crimes of laziness for Europe. The tunnel boring machines that China denied to India until recently are German. It's just that the Germans shifted the manufacture to China to make more profit. There is again the French exception to this. They kept a lot of their key manufacturing with themselves. The Europeans have been jolted now. The important thing and what we in India need to note is that they are responding from realism and not emotion. On Ukraine and larger European security, they will accept the least worst of a bad bargain. They won't kick Trump in the shin or shame him. The national interest mostly calls for responses that are cynical, not emotional. Acting like jilted lovers gets nothing but derision. The Oval Office picture tells us the story of this pragmatism. The Europeans have decided they might have just contempt for Trump, but they have decided to deal with Trump on his terms because they want to keep the larger Western alliance together. They will be America after Trump is gone and Trump will be gone. Even the concessions they make to Trump now can't all be delivered in his term. There will be a tomorrow and a return to normalcy. Therefore, the lessons for us in India. Here are the lessons for us in India and I list them. Number one, strengthen your military. And it's a fitting metaphor on war footing. So strengthen your military on war footing. No slogans, no tall talk, no boasts, and no what may come in a decade. Start this here and now. Focus on deterring Pakistan first. If you've set a new normal now, make sure you have the wherewithal to live up to it because you will be tested. Second, build further on the relationship with Russia, but don't be drawn into any camp. Democratic India's destiny ultimately is not anti-Westernism. Keep stability in the positive term with China as well and let both sides consummate what is their common shared interest. Remember, China doesn't need to fight India now. They can do so through Pakistan as they did in Op Sindoor. Keep the focus there. Number three, calm down your periphery. India should not be dealing with hostility on all fronts. Pakistan is a different issue, but dragging every neighborhood relationship into domestic politics is avoidable and self-defeating. It narrows India's options, which is the last thing India needs. And finally, choose your moment and try to bring some sanity back in the ties with Washington. Moments will come. Restoration of trust is a distant idea. But remember, the Cold War isn't returning and an anti-Western or anti-American bloc will not rise. Once there is peace in Ukraine, Putin and Trump will be friends again. The US and China are already busy making deals. Learn from the Europeans. Not obsequiousness, not chamchagiri, but pragmatism that Trumpian chaos will pass. Do what you can to minimize damage from it to your national interest. Wait for the America after him because there will be an America after him. These are lessons from India drawn from a closer look with geopolitical lenses at that Oval Office picture.